One of the best districts in Schrodinger Street, the nexus of wealth of this world, where you had either shiny glass-sided buildings side by side, or massive stone structures. In the lobby there was a giant chandelier dangling from the ceiling, and after going through a waiting room decorated with paintings of old, I arrived in a room filled with an aroma reeking of bad taste. The scent of paper and ink, most likely. The books packed and lined up on the walls with their rigid bindings would pass for old even on Earth. Marco usually liked this kind of ambience, yet he was casting his eyes down in displeasure. Well, it's not like I didn't understand why. So, in case you want to see her in her full clarity, and it's kind of neat they actually have a moving image. This is a first for the series, as far as I know. I don't recall that being in any earlier parts. Oh my hell, it's been such a long time! This must be what it feels like right before you're gobbled up by a crocodile or a T-Rex. Given her height and weight, a hug from Satia was also known as a death bearer hug. As usual, I am earning quite a lot thanks to your name. Wow, that's... thank you. Yes, yes. Oh, Marco, you look adorable as usual. Hello. Marco's face looked like it might have been... like it might if it were squished between two basketballs. As I observed the scene, I fixed my clothes. Marco was struggling to the point where it looked like he couldn't breathe, but Satia kept him in her embrace for a full 30 seconds before finally setting him free. So, what magnificent case do you have for me today? Something like Avalon again? Did I bring you something like that even once after that? I said this with a wry smile and Satia winked at me. Since you let me handle all the lawsuits related to Avalon, my agency is raking in all the profit after all. Such a situation is so rare. I can confidently say that I made the most money out of that whole mess, second only to Dr. Wallace. Risa really drilled it into me to be wary of women with an intimidating laugh. Satia could probably use purple eyeshadow without any shame, but the scary part was that I think it actually suited her. Also, just because I am the legal advisor for your fund, a lot of big companies come to me. In the end, this trade is also governed by popularity and trust, but... well, it looks like Mr. Gazaniga's run is about to come to an end. I can't see him winning a second term. Straight to the point as ever. There's an additional fee for tact. Satia sat at her desk. I don't know what this actually is. And took a long golden pipe in her hand, opening the lid of her ashtray with a pleasant ding. So, you must be aware of my hourly wages. What do you need? I told your secretary that was going to be but a trifle. Oh, come on, don't take it seriously. A wink. I wanted to have you decipher the specifications of a structured bond, Marco. Right. He opened the document on his tablet and handed it to Satia. And since you're quite knowledgeable about troubles related to these products, we'd also like some advice. Satia tweaked through the screen skillfully, keeping her eyes locked on the tablet while her free hand pointed to a corner of the room. It seemed she meant for us to sit down. So, Hal, even you finally ended up needing help. This is what Satia said as she raised her face from the tablet after reading the document for a while. What do you mean? Have you heard that old Earth saying, when a widow and a shoe polisher start talking about stock, it's time to sell? These are the words of a finance baron from the last century, who controlled the flow of the world war with his capital. I don't know what this is a reference to. Oh, did that hit a nerve? Hal, I do think you are a first-rate investor, but for anything outside of stocks, you're an amateur, aren't you? I'm not angry. At those words, Satia smiled as if she were having fun while putting tobacco in her long pipe, and she used a lighter from her desk that contained an artificial flower blooming in water. And you also want to know what troubles you can get into with these products, right? Yes. A while back, a canned goods vendor from Malaysia came to our Earth office. Huh. Since he was handling products intended for the lunar surface, it seems he was following the recommendations from Harold Brothers' main office to the letter, and hedging currency risk between mules and ringgits. Well, it's not that weird. Besides, when the usual line about how your rivals are already doing this, you can't exactly say no. Satia dumped out her ashes as she said this. But exactly 6 months after that contract, that canned goods vendor opened his eyes like a deep-sea fish who suddenly jumped out of the water and came to her office screaming that he'd been deceived by these greedy bastards on the lunar surface. A canned goods vendor from Malaysia. I can only imagine the micro-businesses in tropical countries like Earth movies depicted them. It seems he had a combination of currency options and interest rate swaps, a derivative loaded with enough fuel to fly all the way to Jupiter. He had incurred debt worth 20 times his yearly sales and came blind with rage to her office, from what I heard. Satia wrapped her log-sized arms around herself, shrugging her huge shoulders. It's a violent metaphor, but this is how the development teams of banks create such products. This is how the development teams of banks creating such products manufacture financial weapons of mass destruction, with no relation to how real-world business works. Satia pointed with her chin at the tablet, which was back in Marco's hands, then gracefully puffed out a bit of smoke. I won't say that these securities ABS are that kind of product, nor will I say there's no magic trick to it. They sell these with protection as a set, right? So you knew about it. My, you know. We give legal counsel to the creators of products like these. If you're going to play dumb, you're just wasting my time. Dr. Wallace was focusing on it, so I was wondering whether it might be wise or not to dabble in these things. Satia squinted faintly. In this field, Wallace's very name tends to summon trouble, and lawyers like Satia make money out of people's troubles. I had already heard gossip that he was focusing on it. Since he didn't come to you for advice, it means he's not out to find dirty laundry. Wallace, the king of pessimism, has two powerful techniques. The first was to reveal indisputable illegalities, such as fraudulent accounting. The second was to forecast the failure of the business. There are no illegalities, nothing that would forcefully entice you into a labyrinth of mathematics, and it is not one of those things that create something from nothing. ABS is backed by some actual assets, after all. And it's not a magic trick like an inverse floater bond, where you just swap out the top and the bottom and somehow the bet works out. You could say it's a rare occurrence for this field, that's a sound product. The deception is nowhere in the product itself. At those words I cracked a strained smile. That's a competent lawyer for you. The product itself. Shit, me and my big mouth. Satia yelled, blowing smoke from her nose. I must really fix that bad habit of saying too much before any of my sentences. Is there something wrong with ABS? Satia looked at me, scrutinizing me as if she'd just woken up and couldn't focus. I realized even though it was rare for her that she was hesitating. I can't say anything beyond that. It would intrude upon my trade. Does this mean you're actively investigating it? Yes, it's the same for us. If we keep on processing every case that comes within grasp like machines, we end up in deep trouble. That's what most of Earth's history is made of, you know? What was good until now might become evil. It happens. One has to quickly detect when something is going to turn rotten. Imagine if we took on a lawsuit where you would have to defend Avalon just before their fraud got exposed. Even if we had no ill intent, how would society look upon such a law firm? Even for attorneys, the leader of an organization is a manager and an investor. As I nodded, Satia looked beyond her golden pipe and heaved another sigh. This is me investing in you, Hal. You can also consider this repayment for your debt regarding the Avalon case. Take this advice from an experienced woman. Treat assets such as favors and debts with utmost care. I shall heed that advice. And again, if you read these specifications, you would find out. Satia smiled impishly, but I could tell she was being mean on purpose. But finding a jewel in the middle of these 10,000 pages, that's what your skills are about, am I right? I knew it. You're really good, Hal. Want to work for me? That depends on whether Reese is willing to let me go. That name was enough to make Satia falter. The housing project would also have to deal with eviction issues, so all the legal proceedings were handled here. This was where Risa and Satia met each other, but even though they were both strong women of the same caliber, the vectors for their strengths were polar opposites. I should shut my mouth then. So, ABS. It's good for the bank producing it, it's good for the customer, it's good for everyone. Now, it's called alchemy for one more reason. One more reason. It's being issued by commercial banks and investment banks. That's the key point. As I frowned, Satia seemed somewhat happy. You are a natural-born trader, right, Hal? You don't do leverage, so you probably won't notice. It's the credit limit. Oh. I doubt I need to tell you this, Hal, But when gathering savings from individuals, a commercial bank is subjected to BIS regulations, right? Their own capital must amount to 8% of the amount they are lending. In other words, they can only bet with a leverage of 1,200%, and only for bets with low risks. So if you're not actually familiar with this, this actually is a thing on Earth. This is, this involved a few things. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm not going to give the whole historical background because this comes up actually quite a lot. It goes all the way back to the Great Depression. So their own capital must amount to 8%. That means out of all the deposits the bank receives, they are required to keep 8% on hand at all times just in case they need to issue something like an emergency withdrawal. They are legally not allowed to go below that limit. It's possible they can. If they do, they're supposed to... There's a few tools they have to actually remedy this, but they're not supposed to, as I said. As for the remaining 92%, they are free to do whatever they want with that for the most part. And, let's see, doing the math real quick, 92 divided by 8 is 11.5. So I assume that's supposed to be where this 1,200% comes from. It's the 11.5 rounded up to 12, and then converting it to a percentage becomes 1,200. But, like I said, the 92%, they are free to do whatever they want with that. They can loan it out in various projects, they can give it out for mortgage stuff. Basically any type of loan needed. Education, mortgage, like some sort of emergency, what have you. And basically the whole problem here comes when they have to dip below this 8% either through emergency withdrawals of people, such as what happened in the Great Depression, how some banks went bankrupt when people wiped out whatever was left. And a lot of the complaints people have about banks in the modern day involves how much they're actually supposed to keep on hand. A lot of people want this number to actually be higher so that there's less risk of the bank going under, but then I don't know if it's every country, but for the US, banks are insured up to $500,000 for dollar to dollar. Once you're beyond $500,000, then it's 50 cents per dollar. And if this is sounding confusing, that's one of those big complaints people have about banks. So don't feel you're alone. Investment funds gather money from greedy old geezers, so they're not subject to this. But banks are looking after the savings of good old Tom the potato farmer, so it would be a problem if they went bankrupt. Once again, going back to this, I do not know if the moon banks are actually subject to any sort of government insurance or anything like that, so it's possible if the bank goes under, you are SOL. Sasha sure does like to bring up that she was born on Earth, dropping the tobacco ash as she blows smoke once again. Banks let you take loans on houses, cars, lots of things, right? But such loans are like turtles and only move slowly, especially on the lunar surface where they look like they're not moving at all. So if you don't actually get that, that's referring to the repayment of the loan, how mortgages can take up to about 30 years or so, depending on how exactly what the agreement actually is. She's saying that 30 years is an eternity on the moon there. By the time they're done repaying a 3-year car loan, even I would have turned into an old woman despite my being eternally young. Marco, I'll be giving you a lecture after this. So you have these banks who want to make big profits, even with such restrictions. Once they've taken their handling fees for the loan, they don't want to deal forever with billing for interest. They want to switch to the next thing. If you are limited in the amount of money you can lend, slow loans become a burden after all. This is where the transformation of loans into securities come into play, and, well, products like ABS are a brand new take on existing concepts. From a global angle, it looks like a box full of misshaped apples. But add the magic of mathematics and it turns into a few rotten apples and a whole lot of bright, shiny ones. But just looking at the figures on the balance sheet, you can see that the quantity is a bigger problem than the quality. And if you use this method to turn misshaped loans into shiny securities, oh, how mysterious! The risky assets are gone from the balance sheet. Then, doesn't this mean we can take new loans? Sasha glanced to the side and smoke escaped from the smile that twisted her lips. In theory, a bank that had gathered 100 million mools from individuals could lend 100 million mools to a company. But if they lent everything, banks couldn't pay the salaries of employees needed to open a shop, and they couldn't answer the demand of people wanting to draw the money they entrusted the bank with. This was why banks were subjected to BIS regulations, and why they had to keep 8 million of those mools, or 8%. They lent the remaining 92 million mools, get reimbursed with interest and profit. banking, trading, working for that way. But the process was extremely slow, and that must be quite irritating. Then, instead of staying still waiting for the $92 million of the loan to come back, it was far better to sell the loan to someone who would be your stand-in debt collector over several decades. However, no one would buy the loan as it was, so there was a need to make it look good. So ABS was a policy that allowed for the acceleration of rotation of capital. As for the whole selling off loan thing, this actually does come into play modern day. You actually do have charities that buy medical loan type stuff. I can't remember the name of the organization, but there is one out there that I know that will buy the loans for pennies on the dollar. And then they just forgive the loan because they realize, hey, these people are undergoing hardships, they're taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to pay for surgeries or what have you in order to keep either themselves or a loved one alive. And hopefully this is making this entire thing seem a lot shadier because the banks are actually selling these loans for freaking pennies on the dollar, just so that they can get more capital to do something somewhere else. So there's actually some real-life analogs to go with this. And of course, they take handling fees at every turn, right? Of course, and not only that, since they also sell protection with it, revenues from insurance installments are nothing to scoff at. If the sales amount to billions of moles, well, you can figure out how incredible their profits are. If you include the loan composition fees, I figure they may be taken as far as 10% as a whole. And to top it all off, the bank only takes a risk for the short time it has the loan in its hands, which is only an instant. After all, once the loan is sold to an investor, the long-term risks until the loan's repayment are all forced on the investor, and they only have to take the fee for no risks. Good business. But that means I sorted out in my head the flow of capital, who wanted what, and for what reasons things were proceeding. The conclusion I came to still had something that was off, but it was something that I was used to seeing. But then, the difference in interest rates between the securities and the protection, that part touted as the Holy Grail, is the collateral for providing funds to the bank. In other words, the interest rate for savings. Yes, normal people don't see entrusting their money to a bank as a risk. They think the capital should be guaranteed and that they should get interest. And then, compared to stocks in the world of CD investments, I can understand why the gap of interest rates between ABS and the protection must yearly seem like it's devoid of risks. Stock investment was full of risks. In order to reduce these risks, an investor had to check the financial statements, call up the administration and ask about their corporate performance and their projections for the future, sometimes directly go to that company. Simply put, to be so wary of everything that it bordered on paranoia. Yet those methods could only alleviate so much risk, and after investing in all the while until results showed themselves, investors had to hope that the administration would remain sound, that there would be no discord, and pray while fearing the worst. And with stocks, not only did it become harder to move when working on a large scale, but for stocks that were already relatively high, one could expect more and more reductions of returns. Whereas with ABS, you were fine if you just wanted to raise your stakes. You wanted 20% returns? Alright, just go borrow 10 times your current capital. The difference was overwhelming. An incredible gap impossible to close between me clinging to my old school investment methods right with risk, and an investment method that managed, using cutting-edge mathematics, to bring down the investment risk to the level of savings. Confronted with the depth of that gap, I was about to freeze from fear and I opened my mouth, if only to encourage myself to go on. But Wallace is into it, right? Well, yes. Satia blew a ring of smoke. Then, that means he hasn't found a flaw in the math, right? I hear this venerable old man still writes his profits and loss statements by hand, you know. I wonder if he even knows calculus. Then there are plans to introduce legal regulations against accounting magic. There's no sign of them doing that even on Earth, so it's basically not going to happen on the lunar surface. So what part worries you? At that question, Satia answered instantly. How much can you pay? Marco gulped slightly, but that kind of argument wasn't enough to make me balk. Without losing confidence, I answered. 500,000 bulls and an extension on our exclusivity contract. Hey, Hal! That's a speculator for you. If there was one thing I could boast to have mastered in the secrets of investment, it was not how much more information I had than people around me. It was not even how much closer to the truth I was. It all boiled down to what I knew that they didn't. I'll accept this display of determination. Actually, we haven't investigated enough to make money off it. However, what we know with experience in our line of work is that such too-good-to-be-true deals will be abused. There really are such things as perfect schemes to get rich. But where it will all turn out to have been a lie is in that it won't last that long. Profits will eventually dry up, and then distortions will start to appear obviously. They sell securities like there was no tomorrow without explaining everything correctly to customers. Then, on the unlikely chance that accidents happen, you get a mountain of lawsuits. Another thing is that where accidents have a chance of occurring, they will eventually occur. I don't even have to know what kind of accident it will be. If everything could be within foreseen parameters, then no one would need a lawyer. Satia was one of those types who knew exactly what she was doing. Few people are actually capable of explaining what their line of business is made of. You could nearly replace Sasha's phrasing with Wallace's and it would still hold true. But then, did that mean that Wallace was also proceeding down the right path? So Hal, will you give it a try? Satia grinned at me like that Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland. Kind of fitting since I just did Alice Marino. This might be the hand of the devil tempting me into a labyrinth of greed. I am a stocks investor. But you're probably the only one on the lunar surface who can actually make it on stocks alone in this day and age. A trite phrase to push customers into sinning, but if you started running blindly because you got poked in the ass, you ran the risk of heading headfirst into a chasm. So, do you think Dr. Wallace is right? Who knows? If ABS works out fine, I will get word from writing its composition specifications. And if it collapses, I'll get a lot of work from handling lawsuits. I don't care which way it goes. All I know is the more excited people get, the bigger the share of profits we will be able to enjoy. That intimidating smile is just like one of the mafia bosses in comic books. They were lawyers and exploited problems to make money. It did not concern them which direction the storm of problems took. I decided against trying to get more information out of her. This time, the amount of money involved might go over Avalon. Sasha let out a laugh. This ABS thing, they're selling 2, maybe 3 billion wools worth of it in a month, right? It should make its way into a lot of markets, and it might turn into a mountain of chips like no one's ever seen. It wouldn't be bad to bet on it, even if you were to bet against it. Yes, if you could outwit them, you would make a hefty buck out of it. Sasha blew some smoke, smiling complacently. Besides, I had to look at the article about your housing project. You need money, right? Its prospects aren't good. Well, on the lunar surface, people involved in that kind of thing are quite crazy, but I do have a liking for that. However, I could still tell what design Sasha had in mind when bringing up the project. You were shining so bright when you came to talk to me about Avalon. She was trying to spur me. She planned on having others cultivate her fields in order to sow the seeds of her business. If I got involved with ABS, whether it worked out or not, I would come to her office for legal advice. That was probably what she was thinking. I wouldn't condemn her spirit as a businesswoman, but I thought letting her say all this without talking back wouldn't help me in the future. Then, when my next big story following Avalon's defeat comes out, maybe you'll be part of the cast. I'll have to make sure I look my best then. I stood up, and after thanking Sasha, I left her office. Marco didn't strike up conversation with me. I couldn't tell whether he was shocked or whether he was looking for words to spur me on. Once on the street, I glanced at Marco's reflection in the window of the black luxury car station just there. No one would mind what I do on my private time, right? Wallace got wind of something and Sasha was trying to spur us on. It felt more dangerous to ignore this enormous storm any longer. Besides, I wanted to check this out with my own eyes. Was I really behind the times? Marco shrugged with mild disappointment. The wind circulating within the dome was a bit strong. No matter their scale, most investment funds entrust the handling and settlements of all their stocks and securities transactions to a single bank. Sometimes stock transactions were done in the same markets as ordinary investors. More than anything, it involved huge numbers and quantities, so it wasn't realistic to do it all by oneself. Also, for large-scale purchases or transactions that must be kept as anonymous as possible, it was more convenient to have them handled by brokers from investment banks who were familiar with the situation. That was why every fund had account managers for the investment bank that they were doing business with for a long time. It was a partner you could contact easily when you needed basic information on the evolution of the market or a product you were interested in. I, however, had the perfect person to investigate on ABS. Hey, I'm sorry for the wait. Risa put a roast chicken on the table. I had asked her if it was alright to eat meat at church, and she replied that they had turkey at Christmas and things like that. I wasn't really sure if that answered my question. Nonetheless, various delicacies were lined up on the table, starting with the roast chicken. Oh, what's the matter? Is there something you can't eat? Or do you want to change your clothes after all? I don't know if I have anything in your size. As Risa jumped up from her chair, Chris finally started to speak. I ditched work to come here because you told me you wanted to talk business. When she said that, I stopped carving the chicken, but Marco was already biting into one of the legs. Risa sat back in her chair and poured some wine into Chris's glass. I don't really like the taste of alcohol. It's grape juice. What? No, it's alcohol, but we have soda. I held the soda bottle out vigorously, and Risa playfully stuck her tongue out, shrugging her shoulders. I'm here to talk business, you know. That's why I also brought Marco. Please explain. Chris's eyes seemed to be welling up with tears from behind her glasses, but Risa smiled, not caring. This is the first time you've been here in ages, Chris. It's been what, a year? I don't think it's been that long. She spoke in a quiet voice, but still seemed suspicious somehow. I sipped at my soup and passed around the salad. What kind of business do you want to talk about? I was just told out of the blue that Chris would come tonight. Risa took control of the conversation like an elder sister. Apparently she was done venting her anger at Chris for not visiting the church enough. There is something I'm interested in buying, and when I contacted Chris's workplace in order to obtain more information about the project, I was told that the manager of the project would explain directly. And who is this manager? As Risa looked at her, Chris, who came to the rendezvous point with a star salesman in her briefcase from the E.J. Roachburg Bank, gave me a sharp look. You're really mean, Hal. I've already seen that salesman. We don't need him. He just says a lot of pretty sounding stuff. But you said you want to talk to me alone. What will you do if he misinterprets that? Oh, did Hal say that? I just said I was an old friend and I had a lot I wanted to talk to her about. You know, Chris, if you still have feelings for him, I can help. Chris's face grew so red that her glasses fogged up and her clenched fist was trembling. Am I in the way? Margot said this, obviously feeling left out of the conversation. Risa shrugged and waved her fork at me. Enough jokes. I wanted to talk to you at the church because I didn't want you to hit me with a sales talk. You won't lie here, right? Chris's expression became stiffer at my words. I may well have hurt her, but you couldn't survive in the world of finance if you were too sensitive. I'm not lying. If that's the case, you don't need the salesman with you. And if you just want to talk, it doesn't matter where, right? Chris moaned, then sighed, laying her head droop in defeat. What I want to know is the way ABS works. If you can convince me, our fund will actually consider investing in it. And your order? She wanted to know the scale of her order. She seemed ready to say, I'm out if it was a negligible sum. Chris spoke reproachfully with a bitter look on her face as though that was the only means of retaliation. Marco, how far can we go? Right. If it's high-rank claims we're talking about, I guess it would be around 5 million. If it works out, we could probably go up to 10 million or more. To be honest, we still have a lot left in our budget. Risa looked astounded at the sums of money involved. When I first tumbled on Risa's place, our whole world almost fell to pieces over a mere 3,000 moles. As Chris sighed quietly, I decided to put some food on my plate and start eating. Can we talk later? Then she added, It's been a very long time since I last ate a proper meal. That spoke volumes about what her daily life was like. Risa poured a glass of soda in place of wine and placed it in front of Chris and started serving the food. Marco and I resumed our meal, and we all had a pleasant, albeit quiet, time. After we finished eating, we gathered in Chris's old room. Though some things had changed, it still had the same kind of furnishings. Also, Risa wasn't with us. Partly because she wouldn't understand the discussion, but also because she wanted to stay out of money-related matters as much as possible. When Chris came in after going to take something from the storage, she still looked somewhat displeased. And to think that in the past, our roles were reversed. Geez, stop saying stuff like that. perhaps behaving in a relatively more adult way at work had given her some self-confidence. My bad. I just wanted to get even with you for taking me down a peg at Club 25. Liar. As Chris said that, she unrolled the wall-mounted display sheet she had retrieved from storage and plugged it into her laptop. Chris then started using it to write arithmetic formulas on par with Agana's, perhaps at an even higher level. Is the product so complex that you need all these formulas? When I asked this with a slight hesitation, Chris laughed as if I had finally regained her favor. I'm just taking precautions. I figure since Marco's here, I'm going to be questioned within an inch of my life. I'm not as insistent as hell. I can't trust either of you. Marco made a displeased face and glared at me for some reason. I've heard ABS was good for those who make it, those who buy it, and basically for everyone and their dog. At my words, Chris frowned just a bit and replied, Well, I happen to agree. I'm not criticizing you. From the way you're speaking, it means you've already investigated it yourself, right? Obviously, though I'd be lying if I said I investigated it myself. Miss Satia did. When Marco answered for me, Chris looked particularly displeased. Her shoulders sagged. In that case, there wasn't any need to call me, was there? There was. There are things I don't understand. Chris sat down at the desk near the projector and asked, What did you not understand? First of all, in what way do they differ from old-fashioned securities? I already understood the part about the trenched structure. People who go to the front lines in the face of huge projectiles are rewarded accordingly, whereas those who stay inside aren't rewarded, but are at least certain they won't get a bullet in them. That's the gist of it, right? Yes. The problem is, if this could be fixed with just a slight alteration of the structure, someone else would have done it ages ago. At my words, Chris smiled smugly. That's thanks to the progress of mathematics. She then puffed up her unexpectedly developed chest, emphasizing it even more, and started writing some kind of numerical formula on the projector. Securitization, in other words, gathering some loans into bonds and then buying them to sell them, is the first example of risk reduction. I can understand why. The probability of every loan ending in bankruptcy is low. But this was merely something that followed a rule of thumb as much as possible. As such, nobody had any ideas how much risk it actually represents. Is it like for options before the Black Skulls formula was created? So, Black Skulls equation. An equation developed by Black and Skulls, who would have guessed? Actually, there's another contributor to the model named Merton, but his name was too long to fit in most cases. Black died 2 years prior to the receipt of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. A complicated equation determines the current option stock prices, how future stock prices are decided in the present. In simple terms, it predicts the price range of future stocks. Before this equation was created, options traders decided prices through wild guesses. Don't know them. An option was a financial derivative that allowed one to make a huge bet on the future rise or fall of stock prices by paying a deposit. As a matter of course, the present value of an option whose worth changed depending on the future stock prices was determined by those future stock prices. Because of that, however, there was the rather baffling issue of how anyone could discern their present worth when there was no way of knowing their future value. For that reason, the pricing of options had long relied on intuition. The people who had managed to express that in a mathematical way had received a Nobel Prize. Exactly. This technique is called Gaussian copula. Copula is a part of speech that links words. And from there, it's used in finance to comprehend the correlation of different assets to one another. For example, the probability of rice balls spoiling inside a lunchbox varies on the temperature. We all know the higher the temperature is, the more likely all of them will spoil. But we don't know which rice ball will spoil except through probability. It's like a tool that can predict the probability based on the temperature. Copula. What? Copula. Can you pronounce that? Chris was chuckling. It's a mathematical tool that allows you to, say, predict how many fruits will rot inside a box of apples, oranges, or bananas, depending on the temperature. If we're talking about the stock market you frequent, then... I'll read this in a second. Let's hit up the defensive stocks first. Stocks which are assumed to be strong against business fluctuations, such as pharmaceutical companies and transportation facilities. If we're talking about the stock market you frequent, then it would be things like how the fluctuation of the interest rate of some country on Earth would affect the values of its currency, or how many defensive stocks people would rush to buy depending on the fluctuation of the price of oil and its influence on economic perspectives, for example. I see. In comparison, apples, oranges, and bananas can be kept for different lengths of time. Bananas might go rotten quickly, but it's not the case for apples. However, we can immediately see that the higher the conservation temperature is, the faster the fruits become rotten. Having rotten bananas doesn't automatically mean the apples are also rotten, but since they're both fruit, if there are rotten bananas, the likelihood of the apples being rotten increases. In particular, it is obvious that if we were to leave them in the heat for months, they would all rot, but we wouldn't really understand the correlations between them. In addition, even if we do know that fruits rot faster in higher temperatures, we don't know to what degree this is the case. Indeed. Same goes for loans. Mr. A and Mr. B are about as different as an apple and a banana. Even if Mr. A goes bankrupt, that in itself doesn't really have anything to do with Mr. B. Furthermore, there's no correlation between Mr. A's mortgage and Mr. B's car loan and Mr. C's credit card loan. This lack of correlation is one of the few ways that the risk of simultaneous bankruptcies can be eliminated. However, just as with fruit, if the conditions become extremely bad, the probability of everyone going bankrupt increases. And this true risk was still unpredictable, or at least it used to be. With a lot of statistical data, it is possible to determine fairly precisely the proportion of loans that will end in bankruptcy. By combining all the different phenomena with their respective probability of occurrence among these loans and thinking of extreme scenarios, the calculator gives a mathematical answer as to how they all start to relate to each other. That's because it's a mathematical model with a clear definition rather than dubious intuition. Using this, the product we have developed calculates the expected probability of a generalized bankruptcy and eliminates as many risks as possible. The failure rate of our product is about... Chris lowered her head slightly and made that odd statement in an impish tone. I wasn't quite sure I even understood what it meant. Even though she was smiling, her eyes felt somewhat cold. Once in a million years, if at all. That was the same look she'd had in her eyes 4 years ago when she became engrossed in mathematical programs. They weren't the eyes of a frail girl, but of someone who had obtained a power that could be used in the real world. The intuition of self-proclaimed experts has been eradicated. Since this product relies on a mathematical tool that anyone can verify, it can obtain authorizations from related organizations. The senior claims that abide by our mathematical tools have gotten them the highest probable rating, AAA. The mezzanine claims are slightly inferior to them, but are still ranked at the same level as government bonds from developed countries. All the risks are clamped into the junior claims. ABS is only similar to old-fashioned bonds in appearance. Now that ABS exists, the future risks are all domesticated dogs wearing the collar of mathematics. Before I knew it, Chris, who was the kind of girl who would look good yapping, had become the one making others bark. So value at risk, VAR, a tool that constantly estimates an investment portfolio's risk using the Gaussian copula. A magical tool tells us that there's a 5% chance of losing 30% overall in the next month. Okay, that... I don't really care for this definition. The risks of the stock market can be quickly eliminated with similar mathematical methods. Value at risk is one of the main ones. Using your old criteria, there are almost no stocks you can invest in anymore. Am I wrong? Even if there didn't seem to be any ill will in her words, they still pierced my heart deeper than they should have. If nothing else, I managed not to let it show on my face. Indeed, I'm surrounded by legendary investors. Not a single one of them feels a shred of fear of failure. Since the opening of the orbital elevator, Emerald Industries have been relying on mathematics to avoid any kind of accidents before they happen. The same mathematical tools that can even predict meteorites or unforeseen failure of the elevator's components are protecting the current investments. That's why, at least in my eyes, those who don't know about these tools are taking tremendous risks. Changing the old investment tools. Progress marches on. The last words might have been Chris trying to cheer me up. Even though I'd been knocked down and on the verge of collapsing, I somehow managed to give a firm shrug, then speak. Could I ask you one more thing? What is it? It's about speed. She briefly tilted her head in bewilderment and nodded with a sure. You were talking about the fund's turnover, right? Yes. 2 or 3 billion bulls are being moved around every month. To be honest, I thought that was amazing. However, after hearing about it, it just feels like they're putting together loans, turning them into bonds they sell, and then combining more loans with the money they earn. It's hard to believe they can move around this much money in a month just by doing that. And your paperwork isn't even up to date, right? Indeed. which is why we've created a system we call a rocket scheme. Chris started to draw a diagram smoothly on the projector. To be honest, the main reason why we were introduced to the market by big institutional investors was thanks to that, rather than to ABS. I see. The whole process of gathering loans, turning them into bonds, selling them to investors, then using the money to gather more loans is indeed tedious and dull. In addition to that, rival banks and vulture-like investing banks have started selling ABS imitations. In that situation, a loss of time is fatal. Therefore, we've come in from the start with more than one system that can exploit this quickly into its maximum. That other system is a special investment company that we call an SIV. Chris traced a line going down from the main part represented by E.J. Roachberg and wrote SIV. We've made that SIV issue some CP. Some CP. I blurted that out without thinking. CP was short for commercial paper, which was a bond issued by businesses and bought by investors. Very short-term corporate bond. Since its repayment period was very short and it was much more flexible than corporate bonds, many people bought it, so it was often used to raise funds. They were basically some sort of promissory note that businesses used to borrow money for short periods of time. Yes, at any rate, since this SIV legally can't have any connections with banks in terms of capital, it can't get funds from banks. Therefore, it uses CP to collect funds. This explanation was starting to sound fishy, but Chris was still explaining away happily, even a little proudly. And then, using the money from the CP sold by the SIV, we bundle up loans from E.J. Roachberg and buy them. After that, if the time-consuming constitution of the ABS is done by the SIV, E.J. Roachberg can immediately switch to the next investment. In any case, since the SIV is a business completely unrelated to banks, banks can avoid BIS banking regulations regarding the loans sold to the SIV. I see. So that's what it's about. It's because the BIS banking regulations only apply to banks and their consolidated subsidiaries, right? Exactly. For that reason, there are some people who call the system a shadow banking system. So basically, this is a system behind the scenes where banks prefer using the money splashed around by investors rather than relying on the safety of clients' deposit accounts monitored by international regulations. Because of that, they made an SIV for the sole purpose of gathering money from CP, buying loans from banks, which allows banks to set up loan after loan. Is that it? If you can associate with rich investors, the speed at which you can gather deposits from commoners just can't compare. Indeed. I also thought since they were absolutely certain that ABS would sell well, they wouldn't need to wait for it to sell. Also, it's theoretically possible with that scheme to make ABS from loans bought from banks at the same speed as the flow of capital coming from investors. For that reason, by having lots of SIV underneath banks and using the CP from investors like fuel, Chris added lots of SIV on the diagram, turning it into what looked like a kindergartner's drawing of a rocket. In reality, Chris had illustrated a story about investment schemes involving gigantic sums of money like a kindergartner doing their first crayon drawing. I've called it a rocket scheme because of the appearance of this diagram. By the way, we're actually outsourcing the constitution of the loans and buying them directly from agents. Which means we're almost operating at the theoretical maximum speed. It's a splendid investment engine. That sure is some financial engineering there. You know, I used to think financial engineering referred to finance-related mathematics, but apparently it's actually used to refer to dynamic things like this. Then, the bottom line is that ABS isn't actually some hollow product without any basis, huh? Correct. It may seem that way, but that's just because it's so perfect. Even I find it a bit odd. However, it's not a kind of bet like an interest swap you can make just by exchanging fixed interest rates and floating rates, nor is it something as uncertain as betting money on next year's weather. It says what kind of loans it is made right from the spec document I've given you. It's only bulky because it also includes all kinds of clauses regarding these loans. Did you read them? I had taken a quick look at it myself after going to Sasha's office. It indeed listed every possible kind of loan, starting from mortgages and including credit card loans, student loans, and car loans. I did, but I just didn't really get the whole thing regarding ratios. Which ratios? The proportion of apples and bananas. Fundamentally, the main kind of loan is mortgages. No matter what, those are the biggest in terms of scale. This has already become a struggle for loans to make bonds out of. Those mortgages have become hard to get. Huh. I nodded before asking one more question. On the lunar surface, you mean? Chris's expression suddenly hardened. So having a place full of people on their guards like major banks, it was essential not to show any weakness. That's probably where she picked up that facial expression. you believe we're hindering your group's project? I'd say you're one of the causes for the steep price rise of real estate. That's wrong. You're mistaking the cause for the consequence. Chris and I glared at each other for a moment. I finally broke eye contact first. Sorry, my joke was in bad taste, but in any case, I see. If we take 100,000 houses with an average value of 500,000 moles, we already reach 50 billion moles after all. An independent survey estimates the potential amount of mortgages on loan surface to be around 1.8 trillion moles in total. That is nearly an infinite amount of resources, isn't it? I raised my hands as if surrendering to Chris's satisfied smile. This was the beautiful figure of finance. Since the dawn of history, banks had made a living forwarding funds to those who needed them. That process had now reached its apex right here. The funds drawn in by a perfect method adorned in splendid mathematics were being sprinkled on borrowers in the form of loans. I remember Chris going with me on a visit to a realtor in Clapton Square. At the time, everyone and anyone who went into debt to buy a house. That was the refinement of this extreme. It definitely couldn't compare to the image of E.J. Roachberg blasting off using CP made from SIB and other things as fuel. I had no other questions, but I couldn't bear to just close my mouth, so I asked her. By the way, what's the loss rate of the junior claims? Which are the riskiest ones? Chris's eyes were smiling behind her glasses. Approximately 0. Approximately. There are only zeros up to the third digit after the decimal point. That's definitely 0 then. No risks. The Holy Grail, alchemy. Apparently just the thought of it made my brain want to spit out insults. In that case, isn't the insurance too expensive? I've heard that costs around 3% of the claims. Your information is outdated. It's no longer sold at that price. That used to be the initial asking price, though. How much is it now? Let me think. Market price for junior claims insurance today? The market price? Are they being traded? Yes. For people who don't use accounting magic, that insurance is an annoying waste of money. Since it's not like the claims will go bankrupt anyway, there are also many people who say the insurance is useless. Wow, this is looking like a mess. This whole thing's gonna collapse. And the sad part is it's like this fungus or a plant where the roots have intertwined into literally everything. It really is like this whole Wall Street thing that happened a few years ago. Besides, we also need to know that insurance is evaluated on the market. Honestly, investors are making their profit in the margin between the respective interest rates of ABS and its insurance. The cheaper the insurance is, the more they can establish a lead over other companies. With that, Chris interrupted herself for a moment before switching to numbers. I just remembered, it's 0.8%. In short, it means that the contract period of the insurance is roughly a year, and the odds of that claim defaulting by then are around 0.8%. It's much cheaper for the safer mezzanine and senior claims. It's basically free to charge. For a failure rate that was in practice, zeros up to the third digit after the decimal point, that was definitely overcharging. And then the lower the insurance money got, the bigger the difference with the bond's interest payment, which in turn meant the more profit could be made. When Marco and I turned to each other, Chris further drove the point home. Though, as expected, the junior claims haven't sold out. Is that so? Oh, right. Purchases are regulated for buyers. Exactly. Since we have intrinsically crammed as much of the risk as possible into the junior claims, they are rated BBB, so only a level above junk bonds. The number of people who are buying them has decreased quite a bit. What are you going to do about that? Since the amounts are huge, there must be quite a lot of unsold products, right? The waste must definitely be piling up. However, upon seeing Chris's delighted expression, I shivered without knowing why. Her demeanor, which made her look as though she could find the answer to any question, seemed to possess some kind of beauty. Since it's you, I will tell you. How frightening. We are already selling our products to good customers like pension funds and foundations. Oh god. In truth, people that you drove away have come to promote a certain product. The cutting-edge financial products by the E.J. Roachberg Bank, which had probably become the greatest financial machine in human history. Hardly a world for a donkey that could only pound around the stock market. Chris was smiling complacently, her eyes hidden behind the glare that the light had on her glasses. These leftover bonds have been gathered and then reprocessed thanks to the magic of the Gaussian copula. What do you think happened next? Wallace's words crossed my mind. The bonds which were overall risky, along with tremendously dangerous bonds, have been divided into bonds with no risk at all. Alchemy. We call them... we'll get to that in a second. CDO, Collateralized Debt Obligation. A collection of a lot of credits with interest payments merged into one bond. We call them Collateralized Debt Obligations, or CDO for short. CDOs are being classified in the same hierarchy as ABS, Senior, Mezzanine, and Junior. While obviously the interest rate of the bonds used to make them as good, they have a whole better interest rate than ABS. They're selling like hotcakes. And since it's recycling the waste products, it also solves the issue of the scarcity of loans on the market. There's basically no need to gather up new loans. Of course, we're also developing a simulation where if we were to have any leftover CDO, we would gather and reorganize them. Its tentative name is Synthetic CDO for now. So, what should these bundles of leftovers be called? I personally think that CDO would be a pretty good name. The old projector made an electronic chirping sound and illuminated a picture of a lunar rocket. Chris, who had been talking loudly, spoke over a giggle as if she was trying to suppress her laughter. With that said, she started leaning forward. How much will you be purchasing? I could hear Chris happily cleaning the dishes with Risa. For one second I felt like I traveled back in time 4 years, but time rewinds for no man. And just as time went by, people grew up. That system is incredible. Looking at the ABS, or rather the CDO scheme still on the wall, Marco looked completely baffled as he uttered these words. It's quite fitting for the lunar surface. So we're going to buy 5 million wools worth of senior claims for the time being, is that okay? If I had said no here, then it would have meant I was nothing more than an obstinate donkey. And with the protection, just to be sure. Are you going to try to outsmart accounting conventions? No. I'm not buying it to gamble. I'm just going to buy it to first see what it is exactly. I said this as a meager form of opposition, but Marco uttered the following words with a sigh. I thought that the mezzanine claims of that CDO thing wouldn't be bad either, you know? Securities made from gathering, filtering, and cleaning up the waste products from ABS. Impurity. That is, risk got more and more concentrated and pushed to the back. Or you could liken the operation to creating fresh water from seawater. Once we get to the stage where we focus all our energy into buying these, that's what we'll do. I just want to go after as much profit as I can. Are you still worried about something? No. This was my answer, but I showed him the palm of my hand before putting it on my knee. Not a doubt so much as a feeling. Something's off. Off? It's working too well. I looked at Marco and chuckled. I know what you want to say. I'm surprised too. I'm no Dr. Wallace after all. I think it's probably jealousy, or at least mostly. I'm just mortified. The stock market has its own good sides, though. But the relationship I got used to there between risk and return doesn't hold true here. I have trouble taking that in, no matter what. The projector was displaying some formulas. Ever since I was trained on my laptop 8 years ago, mathematics had always been a powerful tool. But there was still a room for human hands to intervene. Honestly, people like me could rack their brains and actually take some enjoyment in it. Besides, returns were something you obtained by taking risks. In a way, I don't know why the music keeps doing that. That's the second time so far. I don't know if it's just that segment of the track or what exactly. In a way, our plain and simple era was probably over. There's also a cultural difference between Earth and the lunar surface. Here it's a place to try for the big chance of your life. E.J. Roachberg was a rocket flying with CP as its fuel. Meanwhile, I was just a donkey that was falling behind the times, even in the old-fashioned stock market. I was probably getting cocky, thinking I was the David who had taken down the immense Goliath that was Avalon. Huh? I knew it. Big organizations do things on an incredible scale. I uttered these words looking at the projector, and Marco glanced at both me and the projector before shrugging. Well, think about it. It's like they have a whole legion of people like you, so in the end, what do? Sounded like Chris and Reese were done with the dishes and were chatting on their way to the sofa. I could tell from how their voices resounded. Yes, in the end, what did we do? With just an investment of 5 million moles, it wouldn't bring significant profits. If I really wanted to make money, I'd have to put in 10 or 20 times that for it to be meaningful. Faced with an investment that had all of society crazy about its profits, would I be able to keep on a neutral position, neither following it nor leaving it alone? The stock market was now saturated, and in order to keep turning a profit from it, I would have to lower my level of sanity. I'd have to start dabbling in what I knew to be an expensive stock. But according to Chris's words, that was how it looked because the risk management methods had evolved. If that was true, the speculation madness would be permanent. Could I accept that? If one were to yield before mathematics, maybe. However, I knew that the world didn't work exactly according to math. At the last moment, even when you showed them the right way, people got so scared and confused that they couldn't tell what was right. Above all, since the dawn of history, there had been no precedent of the stock market remaining on a permanent increasing trend. And with that, my thought process went back to its starting point. In that case, if I needed to depart from my convictions anyway, I wanted to spend my time and energy on something more positive. And if I get confident about this investment should lead to immense profits. As Sasha said, I could only view this as the biggest gambit in history, where a never-before-seen mountain of chips was bet. I'll observe and analyze this as best I can, as a wooden-legged donkey, and from there decide whether we should seriously make a move or not. Let's investigate this properly. We can't ignore it anymore. Marco looked puzzled and then answered. But it looks like you'll be buying anyway in the end. That's fine. I don't understand your lack of desire, Hal. You're not going to say, let's do this now, or let's buy more, or anything. I'd prefer if you refer to that as caution. I stood up and made for the hallway. I entered the living room to discover Chris with her head on Reese's lap, having her ears cleaned. It looked like she's asleep, to be honest. Come on, Chris, don't move. Chris realized we were watching her, and as she tried to move, Risa chided her. And glancing at me, Risa said this. You want to go next? I don't have any money. How about Marco? No, that is... He doesn't want anyone besides Eleanor to do it. Such a shame. Marco had his mouth half open, as if wanting to say something, and as we locked gazes, he averted his in a pout. Well then, we'll be leaving first. Oh my, you're in such a hurry. Me too, As Chris said this while under Reese's hands, I heard the following words. If you don't rest when you can, you'll collapse. Oh, and I'll be buying around 500 of those senior claims. Well, if you have enough in store, that is. Risa glanced at me for a second, then said this to Chris with a smile. Did you hear? Good for you, you made a sale. Oh. Well then. Yes, good night. I signaled to Marco with my eyes and we left the church. It had gotten dark and it felt like the temperature had dropped within the lunar surface dome. I gazed at the starry sky displayed above. To think that we're losing to a product created by Chris. The world really works in weird ways. Marco said something the opposite of what we were discussing just now. Appearances don't matter, right? Chris is competent. Of course, you're right, but it still feels weird. I somehow understood what Marco wanted to say, but maybe this was how the world works. Still, ear cleaning, huh? Hearing what I muttered, Marco burst into laughter. You've got to get a laugh or you won't be able to go on. Here, standing still meant dying. We must keep on walking our way. Because we have sworn to keep on walking. So, we'll have to investigate this on top of the regular business, huh? Will we be able to put up with that? Who's this we you're talking about? I shrugged at Marco and we made for the big avenue to get a taxi.